Good afternoon everyone, welcome to the garden of Talbot House, basking in the sun today. But as you remember, we're forced closed because of this virus, and hence we're sharing some tales of Talbot House with you online in the hope to raise some much needed funds for the house. So if you enjoy this movie, please go to GoFundMe and select Talbot House and make a small contribution. Now thanks for replying on our previous post, and you've selected for this afternoon's story the one on billiards. None of that European cannonball game, as have you said, but real English billiards. So it means I have to take you from this beautiful garden upstairs to the second floor of Talbot House, where we'll listen to the story of Private Henry, an Aussie. So catch you there. Welcome on the second floor of Talbot House. Now, for those of you who know the house, the ground floor is perceived as the realm of the body, where ping pong, conversation, tea would flourish all day. You could play the piano, go shopping, Christmas spirit throughout the year there. First floor is the realm of the mind, where you could rent a book in the library, where you could play chess, debate, write a letter home. Now, the third floor is the realm of the soul, where we find our chapel. Now in between all that, we have this floor, the second one, home to a billiard table. Now, how does the billiards fit in with all the other stuff? Well, Tubby gives us a little insight from this great book. I'll read you one of the stories on Private John Henry. It all began with a small billiard table which came from Gamage's in London. Billiards are made for men, but not meant for billiards. And I had cause to regret that most seductive table before long. There was the furore of its first arrival. Then for a week or so, the room in which it stood was inaccessible. A solid throng of hopefuls, the butt end of the queues plying a doubtful passage. Imagine every beast owned by the zoo, given freedom to congregate, and in turn to drink out of a 6-foot water tank during a drought. And you're not far from picturing the proceedings in this billiard room. News spread and callers multiplied. We did not feel at home with them, for they only came with one intention. By now the precious table was moved up from ground floor to this space beneath the chapel. I was not quite happy about this. Its sound, like gas, will rise, and that of cannons is peculiarly penetrating. Billiards, like other games, seized by the strict traditions of the house during family prayers. But I found that at other times the chapel stillness suffered. So what did we do on Sundays? He goes on and complains basically that his services on a Sunday are constantly interrupted. So he has this debate with his fellow visitors, and all of them decide to suspend billiards on Sunday. Even the ones who are under real stress, because this is, let's say, their only time in a month they could play billiards. You have to know this is one of the very few tables at the time in Poppering which catered for 250,000 men. Now, even on Sundays, it prevailed. The little table prospered mightily, but proved a constant worry. Conceive the accessories fetched from by their guardian Jimmy Morehouse in the kitchen, and then too much required to be returned. Ponder the untipped cues chalked by the simple process of thrusting them aloft against the plaster ceiling. Imagine, please not too accurately, the emblematic language. Now, Talbot House was known to be a place free from this type of talk. Action was necessary, and on the board below I advertised for someone strong enough to act as overseer and commander-in-chief of billiards. A little Australian corporal with 3 wound stripes, whom I'd seen about the house previously, volunteered. I asked him for his particulars. He told me he was a patient at the number 17 casualty clearing station here nearby, and allowed out during the daytime and at night occasionally. I answered this would suit me admirably, provided that his commanding officer gave me a signed sanction. This he produced the next day, stamped and corrected, and it was duly filed with all my other staff attachments in my cupboard. The cupboard remained unlocked. Keys were almost uncommon those days in Talbot House. Weeks passed, and every day my good friend Corporal Henry presided over billiards. Himself no mean performer at all, he ruled the routes completely. I heard him do it once and was horrified to find that his remedy for bad language was quite homeopathic, that the green baize turned blue. I felt inclined to creep away and wonder, but read myself a lesson in deportment and went and told him off. He took it penitently and checked himself and others. After that incident he, for the first time, climbed into the chapel. I did not welcome him. He was too raw and too uncomfortable. He took to coming often after that. By and by I had a talk with him there. An element of mystery hung around the man. Handsome and devil-may-care, he played his parts most faithfully and with growing understanding. The house and its ideals had been Greek to him, but he was coming on. He was intolerant of any kind of selfness, but when he met a man, he met his fellow and measured him with promptitude for friend or foe. Australians, love or hate him. Then the blow fell. One autumn afternoon in 17, 2 military police came to the chaplain's room. I knew them and liked them and told them to get a chair. Their answer brought me out of mind. They'd come on duty for Corporal Henry, a deserter. First, for my part in this, where was my authority in harbouring the man? How came he on the staff of Talbot House? I took my staff file and metal skewer pricked through a sheet of papers from the cupboard. The hospital attachment had been torn away and a mere scrap of it remained. I told them that it was stamped and signed by his commanding officer. They said the stamp was possibly come by and the signature was a forgery. I rang my bell for my assistant Pettifer, but Henry himself strode in his shirt sleeves with all the grace of movement characteristic to the man. "You wanted something," he began to say, and then saw the trap. I'll never forget his face. The two men closed in on him, but his strength and desperation were such that he almost beat them back. Had he been armed and a pistol upstairs in his pack, he would have killed and died. I cried out to him that I hadn't planned his capture, that I was still his friend. The handcuffs now snapped upon his wrists. He stood a prisoner, silent. Then, "May I fetch my coat? I promise I will come back." His captors laughed at the idea. I went and fetched it broken-heartedly. The man meant much to me. I told him so as best I could. I told him that I knew about the stolen papers. He said, sadly, "I wish I'd told you everything." The escort took him out. I never saw him again. He lies, I fancy, somewhere in French-British cemeteries. His grave may be unknown but not dishonoured, for a strange aftermath brought me not everything, but things I long to hear. Now, some of you may well know deserters weren't treated kindly during the First World War. We have a silent reminder of that here on the Market Square in Popperingham, where we have 2 death cells and the execution courtyard where many a man was shot for leaving his posts. Now, people who know something about the First World War will have realised we're talking about an Australian here, and things went a little different for the Aussies. They like to do things different in Australia, as you know. His trial as a deserter was conducted in the Australian area, then down south. My part of the proceedings was spared for me, first by the fact that my own ignorance in view of this efficient forgery was admitted, secondly through my own illness at the time. His own unlikely story was found to be correct. Since he had left Australia, he had cause to know his wife was unfaithful to him. She was now living with another man. He had been wounded twice as well. that also was quite accurate. And in the next attack, after he had heard the news of his wife, he was reported killed. Actually, he'd slipped his identity disc on that of a dead man and himself vanished utterly, leaving her free to marry her new lover. They sentenced him to a long imprisonment, but when in 1918 the Australian Corps faced the carrying of Mount St. Quentin, they sent some prisoners back to their battalion. Henry was one of them. Henry was one of these boys. A few days later, I had a letter from him telling me this, and that he hoped his conduct in the attack would clear his character. No other letter followed, and some discreet inquiries led me to believe that Corporal Henry fell, a foolish word, soon after he wrote the letter. Now, a good friend of the house, the late John Laffin, Australian historian, researched this story and something else came out. We know that Corporal Henry survived the First World War. After being sent back to his unit, he ran off again, but eventually made it home in one piece and resumed his old job, that of a boundary rider, a real cowboy in Australia, where he left very little trace after the First World War, but still had a life to pick up, or what was left of it. I hope you enjoyed the story today. Please, if you did enjoy, consider making a contribution on GoFundMe. Look for Talbot House, where you still have to pay for a new exhibition, and well, as the house is closed at the moment, we're desperate for any income. Thanks a lot, and hope to catch you on another one of these in the coming days. Stay safe. All the best from Talbot House. P.S. If you enjoyed the story, another way you can contribute, and you don't have to listen to me and these silly videos anymore, is just buy the book. You can buy it on our Facebook shop, or just send us a link, an email to info@talbothouse.be, and you'll get a whole day's worth of reading Talbot House stories for just €25. Okay, so it's another way you can support the house and entertain yourself during these tricky times. All the best. Thank you.